All right. Well, we're actually a couple minutes after 7. Do we have the phone connection sorted out at this point?
Yeah, I think Beth is on
Okay.
the phone.
All right. Let's go ahead and call the roll.
Maria Ryan,
Here.
Stacy Gloss, Morgan Johnston,
Here.
Elizabeth Mashevsky,
Here.
Todd Rusk, Andrew Stumpf,
Here.
Stephen Wald.
Here.
All right. We have a quorum. And Beth, I don't know if you heard any of our preliminary conversation, but apparently you're not going to be able to vote. But is that? Oh, she can vote.
You can vote as long as you have a physical.
As long as we have. Okay, never mind. Okay, we got that sorted out. Never mind. All right. Let's start with, are there any changes to the agenda? All right. Let's move to the approval of our minutes from the previous meeting. Let's just go ahead and move them and get them on the floor, and then we'll take any discussion or corrections from there. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Any changes? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes from our last meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Those are approved. Are there any members of the public who wish to address us this evening? All right. Seeing none, we will move on to communications and the staff report.
Good evening. First, we have updates on Climate Action Plan. Goal 3, Action 2, purchase green power partnership qualified renewable energy credits and or the installation of on-site renewable energy for city facilities. We're still focusing on the latter there. Still negotiating, working at the details for a power purchase agreement. It would be the city's first for a solar array that would serve the electric demand for the Arbor Shop at the closed landfill. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to conclude that in the next 30 days. We'll be able to report on it at our next commission meeting. Next, Goal 3, Action 3, pursue long-term purchase of bundled renewable power and renewable energy credits. This is kind of a preliminary discussion with a project that is working to develop low-cost southern Kansas wind and bring it on a DC line into the Missouri and Illinois markets. So apparently they can very efficiently produce wind in southern Kansas and be able to afford to bring it a long distance away. They're lining up a lot of contracts with utility companies, and I've talked to them, and they have some interest and appetite to see if there's a way to go through an alternative retail electric supplier to sell to a commercial retail customer such as the city of Urbana. And we would be interested in that in two different ways. One would be price, and the other way would be for new construction renewable energy credits. So that's the opportunity. It's not clear at all at this point whether that will be realized, but we're going to continue to talk to them about that. Goal 3, Action 4, propose strategies to improve the local on-site renewable energy market. We're continuing to work with the DOE SolSmart designation program. That's National Renewable Energy Lab staff that are implementing that project. We're evaluating permitting fees, application approval durations. We've posted procedural information on the city website, so we have a webpage, urbanaillinois.us/solar, that has A to Z, everything you need to know to install solar in Urbana, some resources for best practices and consumer protection, that sort of thing, is all on the city website now, and that's part of the best practices in this SolSmart. We're also starting to get some technical assistance on evaluating a city facility for the relative cost benefit for a solar plus storage installation. So solar plus energy storage. And the energy storage allows you to kind of dispatch your renewable energy that you generate, save it at one part of the day and dispatch it to your facility at another part of the day. and then also would provide backup power when the grid is down. So the idea is there enough value there to install solar plus storage instead of a diesel generator? So we're getting some assistance on doing that evaluation, and we'll see, where the prices are and how it turns out. Yes.
Would that eliminate a diesel generator or keep you from adding one?
The facilities we're looking at now, we're considering fire stations. Being emergency services related, they seem like they would get extra value out of having continuous power. And presently, they do not have diesel generators. So that's something that facilities and as well as the fire department are interested in, having that backup power. And so, they're going to get it one way or the other sooner or later, whether it's diesel generator backup or a solar plus storage type installation. Some recent public engagement. We spoke, myself spoke at the University of Illinois Urban Planning 201 Planning and Action class. So just talking about sustainability work that we do here at the city. The class talks a lot about different things that real people, planners, and planning related fields do, at their job. So talking about that. Courtney Kwong, recycling coordinator, also was doing a lot of public engagement at university-related events with Sustainability Week very recently. Courtney also concluded another countywide, along with our partners at the county and the city, a countywide residential electronics collection event on Saturday, October 15th. As I mentioned before, we use that new reservation system so that people can know beforehand whether they're going to have a slot to drop off electronics or not. By all accounts, it worked very well. Our throughput was 675 vehicles, which is really amazing. And even still, the spacing that they planned was overly generous. They can reduce that spacing per vehicle and get more vehicles in, they think, next time. So that's a really nice tool. It's turned out to work really well.
I actually participated in that, and that was like
smooth?
it was so smooth. It was just amazing. I just
Yeah.
kind of showed up. They took the electronics, and I went on my way. Done.
Yeah, it's nice. All the partners combined have paid $31,000 for this event. So that's sort of a handling fee. Essentially, the value of the electronics in total doesn't, the value of the electronics that have value doesn't pay for the TVs, essentially, the CRT TVs and monitors. There must be some fixed amount of CRT TVs and monitors out there since everything's kind of flat screen nowadays. But I think so far we're not seeing a drop off yet. So there's a lot of them out there. So for a while, if we are to provide this service so that TVs aren't dumped, it's going to cost money. And our next meeting would be December 6th at 7 p.m. in council chambers.
Any further comments or questions for staff? All right. Let's move on to continuing business and starting with the Compact of Mayors climate hazards.
I'm going to switch seats for that so I can show. So we ended last meeting with a lot of blanks on the adaptation portion of this document, and I followed up with some notes of who we could invite to comment on some of these items and give input on our adaptive capacity, and I've filled those in since then. So we've got input from the health department, housing division at the city, public works at the city, economic development at the city, and I think planning department at the city. And so we've made I think there's a drop down. Yeah, there it is. There's a drop down where you have two choices: enhance, either your status enhances your ability to adapt in this sector, or your status challenges your ability to adapt in this sector. And so we have a mixture. I think most of them are enhanced, so that's good. It means the prevailing wisdom is that we're in a good position. And then the other drop down is this addressed in your adaptation plan? And so most of them are not addressed in our adaptation plans, in our climate action plan, in part because it's fairly narrowly construed in terms of what's energy and climate and climate adaptation. And then there's a note about how it is addressed, if it is. And then I think there was just a couple items in the current and future climate hazard section that needed to be filled out. On first glance, the last few were a little confusing: waterborne disease, vector-borne, airborne, and insect infestation. So talk to the health department's mosquito abatement program, Jeff Blackford, who we work with. They provide mosquito abatement services for all the cities, at least Champaign and Urbana. And so we worked out some of that. So this is the status we're at now, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments on it. Tonight or another night, I hope to wrap this up and submit it to the Compact of Mayors. And I think this should put us in compliance up to where we are today. There's some other future things that Urbana and other cities will need to do to be fully compliant, but insofar as items that are due now, I think this would get us up to speed.
Great. Are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question. For the waterborne, vector-borne, airborne diseases and the insect infestation, what are the choices in the drop-down?
Yep. Sorry.
But
I think it's low, medium, high, that sort of thing, and then increasing, decreasing over here. I'm not sure why it's not opening. It's locked up somehow. Cells are protected.
Yeah, and I mean, from the city standpoint, insect infestation, that's not very dangerous within the urban area, but as far as how insects could affect our county, what's sort of the boundary of that?
I think, in terms of what insect infestation is, I interpreted that as, a plague of locusts, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, we have to draw a boundary around what we're going to, take control over.
Mm-hmm.
A plague of locusts to, the soy fields in Brazil could affect us, but we're probably not going to draw our boundary that far.
Mm-hmm.
It would maybe a plague of locusts that affects corn and beans in Champaign County would affect us more, but we don't.
Kind of from an economic standpoint.
From an economic standpoint, and people live here, work there, that sort of thing. But at some point, we have to draw a boundary that says that's really outside of our ability to impact. So I've been construing our boundary as the city limits.
Okay.
What's physically within the city limits.
Mm-hmm. And the waterborne disease, I assume that disease reflects disease to humans,
Mm-hmm.
right? As opposed to it could hurt the fish.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I construed it. Although if it was a waterborne disease that hurt a fish that had, an economic integration, impact, that could be considered too. I considered that as amoebas in the water, which is not something we deal with unless our water treatment plant for some reason just stopped working. So I didn't see that as a potential. I didn't see a change in our risk to waterborne disease based on climate impacts. It would be something really catastrophic for us to not have the type of water treatment we've come to expect.
Okay, thank you.
This is just a, I don't know, it might just be that the wrong drop-down item was noted, but for government capacity, you've got that it's addressed somewhat, but then it says not, in the column about how it's approached, it says not at all.
Which line?
This is the government capacity line.
Do you have the
Under-
number on the far left?
Yeah. Ah, there they are. Sorry, I had the thing too far. Row 74. And while you're looking at that, I will welcome
right.
Stacy, who apparently has joined us by phone in the interim. So,
Let's see, government capacity enhance. And then oh, yeah, that should just be flipped to not at all. I don't think
I
that's...
kind of figured, but
Yeah.
any other comments or questions on this? All right. Well, hats off to you for all the work you put into this, because it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of an
It's a bear.
interesting thing to look at. If the city ever takes on the Star Community Ratings system, it looks somewhat like this in that it's big picture, broadly construed, and if we do that, we would have to do more than a cursory, request of a couple of sentences. There would be a lot more participation from the different agencies that aren't necessarily under the City of Urbana banner.
All right. Let's move on to stormwater utility.
So there was, there was some comments during the presentation that Brad Bennett provided last month, and then some questions that Todd had for me, and we had some discussion about stormwater utility. And so I wanted to, I got with Brad Bennett and talked about some of those questions and got some more details on stormwater utility, how it works. A few things. First, any balances in these budget lines roll over and stay in the stormwater utility. Most budget lines in the city, if there's a balance, they go to the general fund, and that's just savings for the city. This being a special fund, a special fee used for specified purposes, the funds stay there and roll over into improvement projects, which is a particular budget line. I've got 3 years of a couple of budget lines that would be of interest to the SAC. You can see that credits and incentives budget was initially budgeted quite high, and actually too high. They initially were conceiving that they would have to pay out both credits and incentives out of this budget line, but you don't pay out credits. They're actually just a fee reduction for the property that earns them. You only pay out incentives. So after the first year, the budget was reduced for that purpose. The second year, a small, not a lot of the credits and not a lot of incentives were applied for. So they reduced that budget again. The money doesn't go away; it just essentially gets moved into capital improvement projects, stormwater related. So that getting up to speed with our backlog, our deferred maintenance of stormwater infrastructure improvements. And there is, Brad Bennett has characterized it that there's a lot of deferred maintenance, and so there's plenty of infrastructure improvement projects out there ready to go, for whenever there is money. So in that sense, when we miss out on giving out a lot of incentive money for people to do things like rain gardens and rain barrels, we're really just spending it in one part of stormwater management rather than another. You can see from the balances in the improvement projects budget line that they really are rolling out a lot of projects. They're doing as much as they can. They're spending most of that money. That said, Brad has indicated that some portion of that stormwater utility budget could be used to fund something like city-initiated green infrastructure projects. So, the thought was, instead of, we can do more advertising, I think, for the existing incentives that are on offer. But instead of staff waiting for property owners to bring us projects to be incentivized, we can do some analysis and figure out where green infrastructure, where the type of projects that we would otherwise incentivize should be done, and we can take and propose that project to the adjacent property owner. So we can use some data and perhaps find that this area or that area would particularly benefit from some green infrastructure like swales, and then go out there and propose it to the adjacent property owner, who's going to have to continue to maintain that swale in the right-of-way perhaps, and go ahead and just undertake the project ourselves, after discussing what that property owner might be interested in. So in my head, the way this looks is, there might be a neighborhood that is getting repeated flooding calls, and we could take, sections of right-of-way that are, sloped, I guess that's convex, and sort of shedding water, and just change it to concave so that it retains water. And one swale is not a lot in a flood, but if you build that out over time, it may add up to something valuable. The homeowner piece, and I imagine it would be homeowners, although I suppose it could be businesses, adjacent businesses as well. That's important in that we don't want to go out and take over, perpetual maintenance of more right-of-way than we already have. Right now, the adjacent property owner is responsible for mowing that lawn or maintaining the vegetation, whatever it is. So we would want to have a design that the adjacent property owner would feel comfortable and capable continuing to maintain. So that may mean that it's not a real high maintenance, flashy type of landscape design. It may just be, it was turf grass before like this, now it's turf grass like this. That has a stormwater value, and homeowners know how to do that, how to maintain that. You just mow it. So that's some of the things we're considering. We'll have to think about the best way to deploy that kind of project. It may, I don't know that it necessarily means that we have to change anything in the budget. That all sounds like something that could come out of the existing improvements projects budget line, but we'll see when we get to the next budget year. Any questions on that? That's essentially what I wanted to share.
Yeah, just to be clear, so this funding cannot go towards city-owned property. It has to be private-owned because it's a fee, or could it go to something here?
So the stormwater pipes, for instance, are city-owned, and that's where the bulk of stormwater utility money is spent on.
Okay.
So, in terms of a parcel, a city-owned parcel, I presume that.
So you could put a rain garden in on city
Yeah,
property.
I don't see why not.
If
Yeah, I
the
presume that
maintenance
this
were handled in some way.
fund could pay for that.
And have you, do you already have the connection with adding pollinator support through some of these, encouraging pollinators with that too?
Yeah, that's an interesting opportunity. So we could find a place where there's nothing but a right-of-way, and we want to make it hold a little bit more stormwater instead of shed stormwater. That would be the very basic thing. We could also say, well, it could also use a street tree. We could partner with Arbor Division on that. We could say to the adjacent property owner, would you like a portion of this to be a less than 2 foot flower, pollinator garden? we can start adding in those other values as long as the adjacent property owner is okay maintaining it.
Any other comments or questions? All right, let's move to.
Just one, just as a public service. So if somebody decides they want to do this, who do they contact?
Public Works,
Just Urbana Public Works. and
ask
say,
for someone with the stormwater utility.
Let's move to youth engagement.
And we do have some speakers tonight that are
Great.
going to talk about some of the things they're working on.
Great. Come on up, and if you could just state your name and any affiliation you'd like to share with us, that would be great.
Would you like this public comments on the sheet? All right. Hi, I'm Aiden Rivera-Rogers. I'm the head of the Sustainability Club at Urbana High School. And this is just kind of an update because I spoke with you 3 meetings ago, when we were not in the chambers. And I didn't have anything to share at that time because we had just started. Recently, though, we've been working on our facilities at Urbana High. Yesterday, we went to a shared Champaign-Urbana plot, Fowles Farm, something like that. And we helped establish rain barrels as well as do some water and soil testing and some other things like that. But we brought some rain barrels from there back to the school. So we have installed some rain barrels at a property beside the school. And we're looking to actually get some on the school itself, although the nature of the school is that it has a lot of, the roofs drain into a central drain, which then is used, unsure, really. And the nature of the roofs is not conducive to using rain barrels, and just the general shape of the building is not good for that. We're going to see if we can speak to somebody who knows the structural integrity of the roofs. So if we try to do things there, we're not going to put a hole in the roof. So that's our plan for that. But also, we've begun composting food waste. We've begun just doing that for the foods classes because we don't have the infrastructure in place to handle the lunchroom yet. But that's the end goal, is being able to handle the food waste from the lunchroom and being able to put it back into a garden or some sort of just being able to create a positive feedback loop where we're taking stormwater, we're watering a garden, we're using that as fresh produce for classes or the lunchroom, and then composting that in turn, and just creating a nice self-sustaining loop. Let's see, what else do we do? There's something I'm forgetting. So I said rain barrels, composting, and there is, oh yeah, because we have a small garden, but we're looking upon expanding, again for the foods classes as a kind of like a control test. And because it's getting colder, we're trying to do stuff indoors and utilizing this greenhouse space that we're not using for anything else. So yeah, but that's pretty much it. That's the update. We're just continuing to work on these ideas that we've already kind of put forward. So yeah.
Great. Are there any questions or comments? Lori?
I think that's really exciting. I'm curious how you're doing the composting. Is it outside, or is it in a? Did you get worms, or just
yes,
stick
we
it in a
got
corner?
some red wigglers from Fowler Farm actually. They've donated some, and it's a very, very basic, but we're doing hot compost. So again, it's getting colder, so it's not exactly. Well, I mean, it's getting colder even though it's 75, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
it's going to go colder.
But so no, we're utilizing again that greenhouse space that we have to do a multiple bin system. Just as it decays, then we move it to each bin. So we have we're always moving it, so we always have a supply, and there's nothing just sitting there not being used.
Hmm. And who's doing the moving? The Green Club?
Yes.
Or what'd you call it? The Sustainability Club?
Yeah.
Really neat. Have you tried to figure out how much space you would need in order to compost all the food from the dining hall? Or from the lunchroom, I guess?
We're working on statistics and like how much space we have and how much funding we can manage to get, or just how much we can use from the school without having to go outside and spend money and things like that. So we keep it budgeted well. But yeah, we're figuring out statistics still, but we're just trying to get things rolling, so then we can still say we have a groundwork, so then we can build up to what statistics we've calculated that we need.
And another question on a different topic for the downspouts from your roof, you said they go into a drain.
Yeah.
Is that at ground level?
No, it's a story high.
Is
So
it high?
we have downspouts that go down at ground level, but we believe that's just runoff from the AC units, not actual rainwater. So we're not sure. We have to speak with the. With
I'm just wondering
whoever-
if you could get the water to come down and then add a rain garden using the stormwater utility fee. We just talked
That's
about.
actually something we considered at one point, but we have to talk with we have to make sure the roof is structurally stable so we can do stuff like that
Right.
without caving it in.
But it's just to add a pipe is probably a little easier than doing something up on the roof.
Mhm. So yeah, again, we still have to talk with the school about that. So
Pretty cool. How many people are in the sustainability club?
let's see, there's me, Jib. I want to say like 14 or 15,
And how long ago did it get formed?
like a couple weeks.
That's amazing. That's great. That's really great. Keep it up.
Thanks.
Other comments, questions? Yeah, no, I was thinking you've really taken some great projects, and I think these are things that are going to give you good experience well beyond high school. So, and also obviously improve the high school
Mhm.
right now too. So,
And
Great.
and will you come back next month?
oh yeah, I'd like to hear. Yeah, if not next month, at least sometime in the near term, so we can hear a little bit about how some of those
Well,
projects are.
yeah, I plan
progressing.
on sorry, I plan on coming back as long as we have stuff to contribute, or as long as we're able to gain something from coming here. So, yeah.
Great. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you. And Scott, I don't know if you had anything additional with regard to youth engagement topic in general, or
Nope.
did anybody else? All right, then let's move on to new business. We have Senate Bill 0116 PACE resolution.
I'll introduce this, and then Stacy, who drafted this, may want to make some comments. But just to give the framework, there is an existing one-sentence statute that says that commercial PACE is authorized in Illinois. The PACE lenders I've spoken with say that's not explicit and delineated enough for them to get into the Illinois market and make loans. There is a bill drafted called SB 0116 that would explicitly delineate how PACE would proceed in Illinois. PACE is property assessed clean energy. It's a loan and financing and repayment mechanism to make it easier to finance energy efficiency and renewable energy installations. And that's kind of the background, and maybe Stacy has a comment on this, if she's still on the phone.
Since I'm on the phone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. So, sorry. Hello. I am at the beginning of a hockey game in Denver right now.
But on a work trip, right?
I worked on the draft for supporting. Sorry? Okay, I worked on the draft for supporting commercial PACE in Urbana. I hope that it's something that could go forward for our community and can serve as a model for other communities sort of downstate in Illinois that aren't as large as Chicago. It sounds like a first step towards even a commercial PACE program in Illinois is getting the passage of SB 0116. So with that, to just make it brief, I hope that you all at the council will vote with me in support of the resolution to support. And I didn't look at the well, I looked at a final draft a couple days ago, or the draft a couple days ago that Maria had sent out to the listserv, and I think it's up to the Sustainability Advisory Committee at this point to maybe discuss and talk about what would be the specific ask to the mayor in terms of supporting that bill, and then to see if there are any other ideas or plans for what we do after the resolution. I'm going to go ahead and put myself on mute now so you don't hear all this stuff.
Thank you. Are there questions, comments, Morgan?
Yeah, on the point where it says, I think it's actually just the second whereas, the Illinois energy consumption rate for commercial and residential sector is nearly half. I have trouble reading that. I need to know half of what.
Yeah, Stacy was referencing a link to, well, let's see.
Yeah, just briefly, she did. I had that same question for her earlier today, and she sent me to her source, and essentially it's half of the state total.
Could we edit it to say half of total Illinois energy consumption?
And also, it should probably not reference residential, since originally Stacy was looking at pace for both commercial and residential. We discussed that residential is really not on the table at this point in time. SB 116 only addresses commercial. If this were changed to commercial and industrial, the rest would still be true. Commercial and industrial is about 50% energy and use. I think energy consumption is the terminology. Was it an EIA website that she was referencing, Maria?
I don't remember. I was just looking in my email to see if I could find it.
It was a EIA. It was an EIA website.
I'm just bringing up the page. Okay, for commercial, we've got 20.3%.
And what about industrial?
Industrial is, industrial is an additional 30.3%. So do we just want to swap out the word industrial for residential? Because then those two combined also represent half.
Yeah, and then you could say is over half the total energy, half the total.
I like generalizing a little bit. I think that
Or
makes
half
sense.
of all.
All right, so the reworded, what I've got in my notes right now, it says, whereas the Illinois energy consumption rate for commercial and industrial sector is over half of the state total. Does that make sense?
He's
Rounding
actually
further.
editing it on the screen.
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Had my
So it
nose-
says
had my
whereas
nose in my
energy
own computer.
consumption in Illinois for commercial
Okay.
and industrial sectors are half of the state total. Say over half.
And I think, is Beth still on the line? Okay. So neither Beth nor Stacy are on the line at this time. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and continue our discussion, and then when we get her back, we'll read off to her what we had. I did want to note, I did follow in the first whereas clause. I clicked her link, and actually it looks like they have some updated statistics for 2013, where we are ranked 4th nationally, and it's 230.0 million metric tons.
So
2013.
2013,
Uh-huh.
Illinois is
Ranked
ranked
fourth.
fourth
Woohoo, we're climbing.
nationally in carbon dioxide emissions.
Yeah, but it's actually it's less tons. It's 230.0.
Ah,
So we actually did, reduce a little bit, but I guess other states are doing better than we are.
And do you want to read the second whereas again?
Yeah. So we got whereas. Okay, the way I'm reading it now, it's whereas energy consumption in Illinois for commercial and industrial sectors equal over half of the state total.
I'd rather say are than equal,
Okay.
because equal implies, it implies exactness.
Would it read better as whereas energy consumption for commercial and industrial sectors in Illinois? Whereas energy consumption for commercial and industrial sectors in Illinois are over half of the state total? Okay.
For the next one, you could take out the word commercial. It's really all energy waste.
The next whereas, so I agree with the renewable energy purchasing. The other thing that PACE would do would be to increase energy efficiency investment. So this is the whereas, the Urbana Climate Action Plan. So we could say increase renewable energy and energy efficiency, renewable energy purchasing and energy efficiency. I mean, you could just say and, or energy efficiency implementation, something like that.
I like and energy efficiency. Is it only in the commercial sector or also industrial? Since we're doing commercial and industrial.
We're interested in all sectors.
Yeah, we could just leave
Right,
out
just
that.
Stop at efficiency.
Yeah.
Could say in Urbana. Anyway.
We want to take out commercial sector because it's not limited to just that. Right before we wrote in Urbana.
It will be not residential PACE, but I guess Urbana. Oh yeah, you're referencing.
That's
the
true,
Climate
but
Action
we're
Plan.
we're saying
Right.
we're saying generally we want to
Right, yeah, I
improve
see.
those things. Yeah. So if you also delete the and sector, and I guess we have an extra in now too. Yeah.
There we go.
I think in the whereas 2 down, and where it talks about investing, again, we don't have to specify commercial properties because it's true for multiple kinds, and we're not, yeah.
Say again.
So the can save energy and cut utility bills can be probably put into one.
Oh, these can be combined.
No, in the back where you were, that back at the one you were just editing, the next 2 points could probably put together to make one statement. Could save energy, which cuts the cost or reduces the cost.
I'm just going to introduce one because that's not always necessarily true. Because if you've got electric rates and gas rates being different from each other, and so for instance, if you were to sub out a gas heating system with an
Mhm.
electric one, you might achieve more efficiency, but your bills could still go up.
Mm.
So I'm somewhat inclined to just leave them separate if you have no objection.
Does the PACE tool allow for renewable energy purchasing?
Yes.
I'm for the one where it says property assessed clean energy PACE is a tool for financing energy efficiency improvements. Should it also say and renewable energy purchases? Or
Yeah, in another clause, she
Installation.
uses its energy efficiency and renewable energy improvements is used elsewhere in the,
All right, the next one.
yeah, in the document, so maybe we could just use that same phrase.
yeah, so we're- after energy, just after efficiency, just say and renewable energy.
Mhm.
It looks like this doesn't need to be there.
I've got a really important edit. About half of these you have whereas as 2 words.
Which should it be?
The whereas, I guess the first full one on this screen, innovative local government solution. So it is true that this is about leveraging private funding. I might suggest striking the rather than government funding because there may be instances where it makes sense to leverage government funding in certain instances.
Yeah, I think there are PACE districts that partner with quasi-government economic development corporations as a lender.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best practices for developing a new PACE program is to have an open architecture in terms of the lenders, not be locked into any lender. So, generally that's going to be private lenders. But
Right.
if there happens to be some public sector lender that takes an interest, I suppose there's no reason to necessarily cut them out.
Right. Well, for example, a public body could find that they're doing this so well that they could turn a profit not to say that that's a recommendation or should be done, but could be
Yeah.
possible.
In that same whereas, just use PACE instead of spelling it out because we defined that right above it. In the next one, we need to say for commercial and industrial properties.
This could also be a case where it's just true generally for whatever type of property.
Except I think that PACE is only for those two, so the PACE program removes the barriers.
Well, okay, yeah, that's true. That's true.
for the one at the bottom of that first sheet of paper, property owners may take out a loan. Should it say, whereas PACE creates a mechanism that allows property owners to take out a loan? I mean, it's that's how they do it. PACE is what allows that to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Creates a, I don't know the right way to say, to take out. So, I mean, this is really the heart of it.
Yes.
And I'm worried that it doesn't highlight it very well. I mean, it says it, right? But is it an interest-free loan?
No.
Okay.
These are, they're commercial competitive loans.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So that last, say, over the course of 5 to 25 years, that may generally be the case in many instances, but I think we might not want to limit it to just that. So
Several.
this could be, this could be longer term funding. So it could be over the course of, short term to long term, or something. I'm struggling to come up with the phrase right now.
We may want to check. The bill may limit that.
Does the bill? Okay.
I don't recall, but it may. Just for instance,
Okay.
guaranteed energy savings contracts in state statute are limited to 20 years.
Okay.
That the project has to pay back its investment.
Okay.
So, is there a link to SB 116 in here? Let's see it. Let's see if we can find it. That's not it. I'll have to do a little research.
This is just a technical question about how PACE works. Is it because I'm just trying to. There's a bond issue involved, is there not? Is that all?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay.
Where you see
all
that
right.
is where a public agency is acting as the lender.
Okay.
So they, to Todd's point
Right.
earlier, they could take out a bond to make a bunch of loans, to be the lender, and get repaid back, pay the bond back through the property tax collection mechanism. But I'm not sure that's necessary.
Yeah,
because
I
these
guess-
projects stand on their own.
Right. I guess and maybe again it's just so in this case, if you don't have a bond issue, then you've got the city acts as basically the debt collector for the private lender. Is that what's going on? If it's through tax.
So the lender provides a lump sum to do a project to the commercial property owner. Commercial property owner agrees to pay back that loan certain amount for a certain number of years as a voluntary special assessment on the property tax bill. So the tax collector essentially collects that amount and renders it to the investor.
Okay.
And if the property sells, the new owner takes over the special assessment just as they take over the stormwater utility fee assessment.
One suggestion for on this 5 to 25 years could be to say over the course of, for example, 5 to 25 years. So it could be consistent with, the Senate bill, and it also has, can be generalized.
I'm looking it up now. For some reason, I could
It
keyword
looks like
search on my
20
phone.
years to me
Yeah, it looks like 20 years from the date of project installation.
for the energy efficiency, at least.
It's in the definition of energy conservation project. Is that where you're finding it? Yeah.
Yes.
So it looks like 20 years, actually.
Then it should say of up to 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so I still want to make it a little more clear about why this is really good, and I don't know if I'm right. So tell me if this is right. If I own a house, if I own a business building, and I go through PACE to do a solar installation on the roof, and then I sell that business, the future owner has to finish paying off the loan.
Correct. The loan stays with the property rather than the person or the business.
So, I think we need to say that in here because that's really the story that makes it so great. Otherwise, it just looks like another way to get a loan. A lot of the reasons why people don't do energy efficiency improvements is because they don't know if they're still going to own that property later. They don't want to be locked into paying something off once they don't have the property. So I don't know where to put it. Maybe it's a whole nother whereas. Anyone have a suggestion?
Go right after that, the next set part of that. The part of that one we were just editing. Part of the one we're just editing, you just add that
Before it or after it?
after the 20
After it.
years.
Okay.
In the same paragraph.
Oh, same paragraph.
Yeah, just add something about the repayment stays with, or the repayment,
How about in this way, the property has the property owner has the responsibility to repay or to make the payments. Wait, the property owner has the responsibility to make these payments, even if the property owner changes. That doesn't work.
Well, it could just be simply, up to 20 years, and the assessment remains with the property rather than the borrower.
Okay, can you say it again?
Up to 20 years, and the assessment, right, stays with the rather than the borrower. There's one other, I think, important whereas that connects with the in interest of the city, which is that we have research that shows that energy efficiency and renewable energy and in Energy Star and things like that, they do positively affect property values. There's less research in the residential side, which was a question we were addressing in a meeting past. And so for the a bottom line for the city is the potential for increased assessed valuation. Or I guess maybe that's in interest of the county.
I found a nice summary. I'm going to put it on the screen for you of the benefits. So this is Pace Nation. This is the leading advocate for Pace nationally. So 100% financing. Year term. split incentives. This is the possibility that a tenant could come to the property owner and say, I want these types of energy efficiency improvements because I pay the power bill, and you can put it on, if you agree to it, you can put it on the special assessment, pass through the special assessment to me as the tenant, and of course any subsequent tenants at the end of our term if I, the tenant, leave. And transferability attached to the building, not the individual or business.
So this summarizes benefits to the borrower or the building owner. There's, I don't know. So I guess I'm just, restating. And maybe we don't need to have that, but I think a large scale, there would be an effect on assessed valuation. I don't have a good reference for that, and so maybe for that reason it's not a strong inclusion.
No, I think it's straightforward. If more energy efficiency and renewable energy projects are done than otherwise would, clearly that must increase the value of the properties.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a pretty reasonable claim.
Okay.
Maybe put it up higher where we talk about the benefits of, like, before we define PACE.
I could imagine one right after there's the one on the bottom of the page. So right before, whereas locally enacted programs are an exercise of the traditional authority. So a new whereas. I don't know if that's the right place. But anyways, the language could be something like, large-scale adoption of energy efficiency and renewable energy retrofits, improvements, can positively impact overall assessed valuation.
Just briefly, I was just wondering about the sixth whereas, if it might fit in there, because that one seems to kind of be focused on what the benefits are, and it does talk about, local jobs and some more, kind of things that are more general than just the individual.
Yeah, sure.
This one?
Yeah. And that could just be and increase assessed valuation at the end.
I think you'd say property valuation.
Oh, okay.
Assessed property valuation, values, either.
Maybe we could have an overall in there, overall assessed.
And maybe we can put these from Pace Nation in one line, just real quickly. So 100% term, split incentive, transferability. Where was the one we were looking at?
You're hovering over it right now.
I think where it says take out a loan, you could say for up to 100%.
Yep. And I think the suggestion was up to 100%. Was it?
After years, that comma should maybe It's not a correct sentence.
And you stick the word and in there, comma and or something.
Yeah, if it's comma and, we could say the assessment stays with the property rather than the borrower, and then not a comma, and can be transferred to tenants, and can be, that's the split incentive is about charging the tenants
Yep.
for it.
Yep.
Can be passed on to,
But we might want to specify that's through the rent because the tenants wouldn't be directly assessed. But,
Mhm.
yeah.
Repaid through the
Hmm.
rent.
I mean,
So-
technically, the property owner is still paying it. They're just passing on, they're collecting that.
Just
passing
paying
on.
it with the tenant's money.
Right, right.
Can
It's-
potentially be passed on.
and that's all four of them.
Yeah.
So I think that we still have to decide what we want to actually ask them to do. I didn't understand. Take some action.
Although, before we get to that, I wanted to see how people feel about having this addressed to both the mayor and the city council, or if you want to keep it at being addressed to the mayor. Because if, for instance, I mean, there's some actions that we can ask of the city council that the mayor would not be able to do independently, such as send a resolution to the state legislature or something like that.
I don't know why we wouldn't do it to both. Is there some reason not to? I think that our mayor cares about these issues and that our city council cares about these issues, and so it'd be good for them all to be informed.
I think that this commission probably wouldn't be here if that weren't true, so.
Or maybe we would.
Well, the to be determined was, and I overlooked that just because I thought that the idea was to encourage the mayor and council to support a resolution, to adopt a resolution encouraging the state to enact Senate bill, the Senate bill. I guess that was what I understood that we were trying to do with this.
I think that's for this commission to decide.
Okay.
They could pass a resolution of support. They could send a letter from the mayor's office just
Okay.
solely. They could
Okay.
send their own individual letters.
Okay.
There's
There's
different
options
things.
here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But we want two things. We want them both to support the bill and then also to participate somehow once it's enacted.
That's true. You may choose to go through this exercise again, stressing the latter once the former is accomplished, for
Is-
clarity's sake. But
Is that what the last paragraph is?
it is. The be it further resolved.
Yeah.
But I guess that is the ultimate point, right? And it's not just to get the statute passed, but for us to
And then
participate.
do something
Yeah.
with it. Yeah.
Does anyone want to?
Well, why don't we, so first, just above the last whereas in bold needs to say commercial and industrial. Instead of just commercial. Right.
Commercial pace is a term, and so that includes commercial as in not residential and not public
Okay.
sector. So that includes industrial.
Okay. And then, so urges the mayor of Urbana and each city council member to send a personal letter of support to the state legislature, or our state representatives?
I just wonder, if we,
I don't know.
because it may be, I suppose, both more convenient and more powerful if it's a resolution from the council as a whole, because then it's from the city, it's not just individual people.
Oh, yeah, that's
So,
better.
Okay. I don't know.
Urges the city of Urbana, no, the city council of Urbana to pass a resolution in support of the enactment of this bill. I feel like I don't know what I'm saying. But I know what I want. I'm just not sure how to say it.
Send a resolution
an-
of support for the bill?
Yes. On behalf of the city, especially the students in the Urbana High School Sustainability Club, if they were still in the room. Can we put that on there? Let's invite them to attend the city council meeting where this gets discussed.
And who would they send it to?
I'm not sure where, I know there's some mechanism for cities to do it, but to be honest with you, I don't know where those letters go.
It doesn't go to the legislator who's tabling the bill?
I don't know, because it's, because if you're sort of urging the legislature as a whole to take some sort of action, if you're sending a resolution, yeah, like it might go to like a committee chair of some sort, but
Yeah, because
Yeah.
someone's
yeah,
We
pushing the
could-
bill through, so.
right. I mean, I
We
think
could just say, keep it vague, the appropriate state officials or something to that effect,
Right.
and figure that out later.
Do we want to change format and put a simple cover letter on this and have these be resolutions that city council adopts? And this is a draft for them. I don't know. Model language. Are we asking them to adopt resolutions like this to send to the legislature? Okay. And what
think that would
language would
make
they use?
sense.
Yeah.
Um,
This is a pretty formal way for us to communicate. Maybe it's a standard way for us too, but we could also just slightly tweak this into a form that they could adopt.
I think that's a great idea.
So the from would be from the city council, and we would be presenting them with the draft that that the SAC.
Urging them to, review and adopt, and we've provided model language for your convenience.
that may have to be accompanied with a cover letter with 3 or 4 paragraphs. So we'll have to come up with, or
Open
Maria
a new
could
file,
offer
Scott.
it.
Let's go. think we
you
should
could
start with the
vote
date.
to authorize Maria to author it. Maybe. Sorry.
I don't know. That just occurred to me, and I don't know if that would be just convenient or courteous way to approach, the ask, because otherwise, and it's very possible that's how they would approach it anyway, is to model it off of ours. But
Yeah, they could simply just copy and paste and put "we, the city council" at the top and move on.
So for us to submit this as a resolution, we would have to put some sort of cover on it anyway, right? Not just hand them the signed resolution.
No, if it's a resolution from the Sustainability Advisory Commission to someone, I think that can stand alone. But if we're drafting a resolution that would be from city council to state elected officials, that would be a draft, and that would probably need an explanation cover letter on top of it.
Since you just said state elected officials, we could finish that one part that we're trying to do to appropriate state elected officials. Yeah.
And put in the word appropriate. I like that.
But not the inappropriate ones.
That's a good one.
I I think that we should just send them this resolution rather than get into doing a letter, because they can take the same one, right? And I also, they probably would modify it a little bit, maybe say something along the lines of, where we have further be it resolved that the city should join one, they could put a whereas we intend to join one. Once you create this, we need it to give it to us.
And actually, in that further resolved, that one, I think we should probably also add city council, because I think that's one where
Mhm.
the mayor would not be able to do that without the city council.
We could just remove the mayor and leave it as City of Urbana. It's like the royal we.
Sure.
I think that it wouldn't be join a green special service area, it would be to enact,
Could be either.
create.
That's true. We could put either
Oh,
or.
there might be one. To join or create.
I like that.
Looks done to me.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there?
Wait.
Is there-
I move to accept all changes as drafted in this document, tidy it for any errors you may see, and finalize it as a resolution from the Sustainability Advisory Commission
To
to
city.
the city
Okay, to
officials, to the mayor and
mayor
the city
and
council.
Great. Is there a second?
I second that.
Is there discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. And we have no more new business, so we'll move on to announcements. Does anyone have announcements this evening? None? All right, well, seeing no further business before us, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, we're adjourned.